Welcome to the Awakening Podcast. You can find all our episodes on awakeningpodcast.org. We're also on BitChute and Rumble, and you'll find my 4 other podcasts along with the podcast coaching on bio.link/podcaster. My guest today, he's an entrepreneur, comedian, rapper, ninja, world traveler. He's the CEO and founder of Golden Cricket. Please welcome Eli Halpern. Did I pronounce it properly?
Eli Halpern.
Eli Halpern, sorry. So, I mean, I've mentioned the little bullet points, but you might kind of let people know a little bit more about you.
Oh, yeah. My main company right now is turning crickets into protein bars. It's called Golden Cricket. We use crickets because they're 65% protein by weight. They contain all 9 essential amino acids. They use 2,000 times less water to produce than whey protein. They only take 30 days to harvest, which is like 12 times faster than plants. They're a natural prebiotic. They're high in calcium, magnesium, zinc, iron, potassium, omega-3, omega-6, vitamin B12, and it's okay to kill them because they're just crickets.
And are they actually from the States that you get them, or are you importing them?
Well, initially we got them from Canada. Right now we're getting them from America. We just switched to a new supplier, which is a cricket farm owned by Mark Cuban. So if I'm doing business in the same realm as him, it sounds like I'm doing something right.
Very good. And like, they're breeding them, obviously, but do you know what they actually feed them? Because especially in America, like I see a lot of GMO, which is kind of technically banned in Europe, but I don't believe it is. But I'm just curious, do you know what they actually feed them to while they're growing them?
It's a mix of corn, soy, and dairy, usually. I don't know exactly what they feed them, but there's probably GMO involved. But the crickets are not genetically modified, and they're not they don't use pesticides because that would kill the crickets. And there's no processing going on, and they don't get like tortured, so there's none of that absorbing their sadness. If you're worried about that, I know a lot of people don't like the thought of factory farming like cattle and pigs.
Yeah. Well,
And they're completely natural, it's just there's crickets and then we just grind them up and turn them into powder. Also, the fact that it's powder reduces any possibility of bacteria or parasites or mold, because just logically thinking, if you have a dry powder being shipped, that's not really going to leave any room for any of these microorganisms or harmful molds to grow because it's dry. There's no moisture.
no, because I was actually going to touch on that because I'd heard, I mean, I know they're trying to get a lot more people to be eating insects, and I had heard about that the parasites in the insects, so we shouldn't be eating some insects, but obviously if it's ground into a powder, that's eliminating that.
Yeah, I actually haven't heard anything about them trying to get us to eat insects. It would be nice for my business if they were. What I see happening is they're trying to get us to eat lab-grown meat.
Yeah.
And plant-based stuff, which if you look at the ingredients, all the plant-based stuff is completely unnatural. And same with the lab-grown meat. But I mean, crickets have been around longer than any government institution that could even comment on it. But these things like plant-based meat, lab-grown meat, these are a new phenomenon.
And like, you're a world traveler, so is this something that when you were kind of in the Asian countries, you saw people with crickets on a stick and you kind of said, oh, I'll try this, or how did the whole thing come about?
That's a good guess. That's exactly correct. I was in Thailand and I ate a scorpion, and I was blown away because it was actually delicious. And this was it was interesting because it had never even crossed my mind to consume insects. And after I tasted it, I was like, I could actually eat this every day. And I did some research, and it turned out it was the most nutritious and sustainable source of protein on the planet. So I was kind of like, huh, people should eat bugs, but I never really did anything with that thought process. And it was just kind of a belief I carried that if the conversation ever came up, I'll be like, oh yeah, bugs are like super healthy. We should eat them. And then it wasn't until like maybe 2 years ago when I started this business and I realized I could have a viable business making them into protein bars. Because I still think eating bugs is kind of gross too. Like I'm not gonna just eat them straight up or even dried, even though a lot of my customers request that. We might have to pivot to that pretty soon because there's a demand for it
I suppose they
in the
like the
market.
crunchy feeling. Do they have the bugs maybe?
Yeah. And but I was like, okay, well, eating like I wouldn't bite into the leg of a cow, like that's gross. But I would eat a steak. I eat a lot of meat, by the way. I'm not trying to replace meat. Um, but what's the difference between steak and biting into a cow's leg? Well, it's prepared properly. So how do I properly prepare insects? Well, dehydrated and ground up into a powder and in a protein bar. That sounds pretty cool because I like protein bars. That's like my go-to snack.
And because with the other kind of bars as well, like a lot of people have stomach issues, so with gluten and things like that. So I presume you're getting that market as well, the people that are suffering from that.
Yeah, because it's high in fiber because of the chitin in it, and it it makes it's a natural prebiotic essentially. It makes it easier to digest, and like 70% of the world is lactose intolerant, and whey is the main protein source on the market right now. And again, I'm just trying to offer an alternative protein source. Like I I'm not trying to replace meat. I think we should eat everything. Like I've had a lot of people say like you can eat your bugs, I'll eat a steak. Like I'd rather have a steak than a protein bar. And it's like, yeah, me too. This they're completely different markets.
This is kind of like while you're on the road and you don't have time for a steak or there's nowhere nearby, you just pull it out. Which, I mean, that's the time that most people they'll stop at the McDonald's and they feel crap for the whole day, or they're just going in buying a bar of chocolate or something crap. And to have something like that, that's not going to make a meal and gives them the right nutrients.
Yeah, exactly. It's there's never been a chance where I've had to throw a steak into my gym bag. It's and I'm certain that there's you know hundreds of thousands to millions of years of hunter gatherers where they were on the way to get the buffalo and they're snacking on bugs the whole time while they get there.
Yeah, yeah. So with the bar, then what other ingredients have you got inside them?
Well, it's a peanut butter chocolate banana protein bar, so those are those are not like flavors. There's actually that in there. And we got oats and chicory root fiber and sunflower lecithin and sea salt and dates. Dates is a big one.
Okay, so it doesn't have much sugar if you're using the dates for the sweetness, I presume, yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And then
Okay.
we just came out with a new product that's a horchata cricket protein powder for smoothies. And that has so the bar is 14 grams there. There's what the bar looks like. Shiny gold package, pretty cool. We just redesigned the logo. This is an older uh there's the new logo.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. And is it just based in the US, or are you actually going to be distributing it internationally?
I would like to distribute them internationally. I'm not really sure how to go about doing that,
Okay,
but that is the goal.
that's the goal. Okay. And with the US, then, can you just go in and manufacture, or do you have to deal with the FDA? Because I've seen so many different issues with them when you're doing a bar manufacture.
Do I have to deal with the FDA internationally? Is
No,
that
no,
what you're
for
asking?
America, in America, for
Oh, yeah.
this.
Well, so I have a co-manufacturer that makes these. So they deal with the FDA.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just creating the recipe and the concept and the artwork and the business, and then they make it for me using their FDA approved labs, and then they send it to me.
Okay. And what's the price of the bar?
It's $5 or 45 for a box of 12.
Okay. And I mean, to me, that seems a bit steep, but then again, I'm not living in the US, but I've got, over 50% of my listeners of this podcast that are actually US based. Is that kind of in line with, say, kind bars and things like that, or is it a
I mean, a
higher
Cliff
end?
Bar is like $4. A Cliff Bar is like $4, and it's made with like brown rice syrup, and it's not very healthy, and it's low in protein. But yeah, it is rather expensive. But it's rather expensive for me to manufacture it. Everything's just expensive right now, man. Everything's going through the shitter. The economy's going to shit. The government is trying to strangle the middle class and turn us all into homeless people. And they're just making every possible way to make money as difficult as possible. So it's all about persevering and gaining your customers through marketing and just creating traction and multiple streams of revenue. My long-term goal is to be able to blow this business up and then start a coaching program to where, if I can make millions of dollars selling insects, I'm pretty sure everyone is going to want to pay me a lot of money to tell them how to do that. Like if I can do that with insects, I could do it with anything. So I'm fighting like an uphill battle here because I like the challenge. I think it's going to be a good story. I think it's interesting.
And are you just selling online yourself, or are you actually in some retail stores?
We're only in stores around Austin, Texas, where I live, and we're sold online at goldencricket.com.
And is like how long did it take you to come up with the flavor that you've got with the peanut butter and the dates and the banana?
Well, that was what I wanted to make at first because that's the flavor of my smoothie. Make a peanut butter chocolate banana smoothie every day. Or not every day, but when I have ripe bananas, which is a small window. I usually get a bunch of bananas and then there's like a 3-day window where they're just good enough to make into smoothies. And then I don't have smoothies for a while. But I wanted to make my favorite smoothie in bar form. So yeah, it's always been peanut butter chocolate banana. I've
And
always wanted that in a bar.
okay. And with the shake, then is that something that would benefit somebody that's doing a gym, or is it totally different? The powder
Yeah,
form.
totally. It's great for a post workout shake. It's, I mean, that's what protein powder is for. I think the typical supplementation is like caffeine before the gym to give you energy, and then protein after the gym to feed your muscles you just exhausted.
And you're doing martial arts for a few years. What exactly martial arts are you doing?
So I do Muay Thai, MMA, Jiu-Jitsu, and boxing, and I just I just won a Muay Thai fight a couple weeks ago, and now I'm trying to just focus on Jiu-Jitsu, which is there's no striking involved. It's all grappling. So there's a lot of strength involved. So I've been getting more into lifting weights, which I haven't really done much for the last couple of years. But strength goes a long way in grappling. So I'm gonna try to get considerably stronger with the help of cricket protein. And
And are they all different kind of centers that you do that, or is it one place that does all the training?
it's all one place.
Okay. And are you actually having it there at all, your product for other trainer, people that are actually in the club?
Well, my company actually sponsors a lot of the fighters from my gym. So if you go into my gym at any time, you'll see people wearing my rash guards. I have like custom rash guards with my company's logo and name on it and stuff, and they're pretty cool. I don't have one that I can show you right now, but there's a lot of people that are wearing them at any given day. You can walk in and be like, oh yeah, there's golden cricket over there.
I've
So
seen
everyone knows about it.
okay.
It's and people know me as the creator of it.
I've seen some of the videos where people were kind of skeptical, but once they taste it, their reactions were like that they really enjoyed it, and then they like it's obviously you're giving out free, but then they were you could see that they wanted to buy a few and everything. So it's obviously getting good feedback regarding taste.
Yeah, yeah. There's I consider myself as having quite a refined palate, and that my ability to make these flavors was definitely well received by the masses, which is is not surprising to me. I know it tastes good. That's why I made it. But yeah, everyone enjoys the flavors. There's two flavors. We have the peanut butter chocolate banana protein bar, and then we have the horchata cricket powder for smoothies. And the powder basically tastes like a milky cinnamon, and
And is
there's
it
no
with
sugar.
water you mix that with then, or what do you mix it? Just water, is it, or what do you mix it with?
We mix it with oat milk when we give out samples,
Okay.
but you can put it in anything,
And
whatever you like making smoothies with. You could put it in water, but you got to drink it fast because the the like the exoskeleton in the powderized crickets is not fully water soluble. So if you shake it up and then let it sit, the pieces will kind of fall to the bottom. So if you use like a oat milk or other milk or milk substitute, there's a slightly higher viscosity that'll kind of suspend the pieces in the solution a little better for a more long-term sipping. Or smoothies are great. I recommend people make it into smoothies, but you could bake it into cookies, or you could do a lot with it.
have you got plans for other flavors then? Or are you just sticking with that one?
Yeah, we're gonna come out with other flavors. Well, we just came out with this one, and we got to figure out the online marketing aspect. So we're just focusing on getting more sales online right now because we kill it in person, but that's not scalable. And I don't want to be spending every day. Um, the way we do it is like Girl Scout cookie style. We just set up a table and are like, hey, free samples, cricket protein, and then a lot of people are like, I would never fucking try that, and then a lot of people are like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. So I'd rather not be doing that every day, so I have time for all my other passions.
I assume kind of like vegan, vegetarian shops would be kind of ideal for getting distribution for you because a lot of people they're kind of looking for alternatives.
Well, crickets are an animal. Insects are animals,
So they
so
they, they so they don't like okay.
it's not vegan or vegetarian, but we have found a lot of vegans and vegetarians love our product and are switching over to golden cricket because there's less net death involved in the farming process. When you're farming vegetables, fruit, agriculture, when you're harvesting, you're killing everything in that field. You're killing mice and foxes and rodents and trillions of insects, and they're just dying for nothing. They don't get eaten by us or turned into fuel. They just die, and then you get your broccoli. But with crickets, it's it's only those crickets dying. There's no ancillary deaths. Is that the right word? And there's they're the only ones dying, and they get my nose is closing up right now.
What's
Crazy
the
crazy
what's
allergies.
the the way that they're actually killed? How was that done?
So they get either suffocated with CO2 or they get frozen, and then they get, after they're dead, they get cooked to 175, which dehydrates them and sterilizes them. And then they get rinsed off and then powderized.
Okay. Okay.
Just thrown in a blender, basically.
Okay, but I mean, like when they're frozen under the CO2, that's a humane way of doing it. Because I know that there's some people, especially if you look at the pig farms and the cow farms, the way they're done. I mean, they're in cages and everything. So for those that like if you can eat bio in green field animals, but it's not always possible. But for something like that, at least it's if somebody has they think it's cruelty, that's kind of cruel free way of doing things.
Yeah, and initially we were getting it from a free range cricket farm, which is funny. I don't even. They just used a larger box to keep them in. But even if you farm them in a small box, there's no way they're ever going to be like jammed in shoulder to shoulder. They're so small that you can grow them in these bins, and they're still going to have enough room to like crawl around. And their whole life cycle is only 6 weeks. So they get to pretty much live their whole lives.
And because I mean, I don't know anything about crickets, to be honest with you, but I know that ticks, like I heard that they give like 1,500 eggs, and I was like, whoa, but what with crickets then? How many, like, what's the kind of mating process? How many eggs do they have? What's the whole system for them?
Well, I don't know the exacts on that. I've never farmed crickets. I just know about eating the dead ones.
Yeah.
But they populate quickly and in large numbers.
Yeah. You're a comedian as well. Yes, you've been a comic for something like 7 years or something I seen.
Yeah, and the worst thing you can have in your audience is crickets, so I decided to kill them all and turn them into food.
Have you been touring the States, or how did you get into comedy?
I've always liked making jokes ever since I was a little kid. So, and I wanted to do something in the entertainment realm. So I started writing jokes when I was like 18, and I was like in college and stuff and busy with that life. And I didn't really get around to actually trying to perform until I was 22. And then from 22 to 26, I was doing comedy in Los Angeles and Hollywood. And then when I was 26, I moved to Austin, and then I've been doing comedy here for the last 3 years.
And I've seen Joe Rogan has opened his own place. Have you actually been there?
I haven't seen a show there yet, but I walk past there all the time. I'm friends with like every single person that works there. It's crazy.
But I think what he's done is he's caught out just from listening to what he's saying that there's a lot of kind of corruption in the agents and everything trying to shaft the comedians, that he stopped that. So he's kind of looking out for the comedians. That's the way that it seems.
Yeah, he's doing a lot for comics out here, and it's really exciting. He's putting on a bunch of people that I'm friends with, so I love what he's doing.
Okay. So I know we've touched on the thing, and I just want, because like you're open to what's the craziness in the world, and you mentioned all the costs going through the roof and similar all over Poland and everything, fuel costs, all the utility bills have gone through the roof. In the States, like, because I've seen a lot of people are moving to Texas, they're moving away from California and everything. And just for me looking in and seeing a lot of people fentanyl and all this, like, it's so bad in a load of states that you've got so many kind of junkies that have been, I suppose, was it they started off on the pharma drugs, the opioids, and then it just kind of they couldn't afford it or something, and then went on the street drugs? What's really going on there? Because I heard the other day there's something like 250,000 a year are dying from this, which is staggering.
You asked me what's going on with the drug pandemic out here, the opioid pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't personally know anyone that does opiates. I used to know people that did heroin in college. I don't know what yeah, there's a lot of homeless people out here probably doing it though. There's a lot of homeless people. I mean, the way I see it is when you're existing in this capitalistic society and you are unwilling or unable to participate in your own financial journey to success, there's always that option to just eliminate the sensitivity of your frontal lobe by engaging in consuming substances that are designed to make you not feel anything. And I think these are all people that just don't want to do the work, because we're not really designed to collect money. The whole concept of money is very absurd, and it's here by design to control us. So I can understand why a lot of people would rather just say, okay, well, instead of getting money and starting a business, I'm just going to take money and numb myself to postpone the suffering and then eventually die. So I think that's the root of addiction when it comes to hard drugs. It doesn't start with pharmaceuticals usually. It's not like people, this does happen a lot. A lot of people get prescribed painkillers because they hurt their back, and then they run out of either their insurance doesn't cover it, or they run out of painkillers, or their doctor won't refill it, or whatever, and then they can move up to heroin and then fentanyl from there. Also, if you're buying heroin in America, you're buying fentanyl. It's all cut with fentanyl because it's way cheaper than heroin, and it takes less of it to get you high. But okay, so there is that happening. There are people that initially get prescribed painkillers and then go to fentanyl. But there's even more people that are just like, fuck this shit, I'm gonna do heroin. That's the most of what I see on the streets.
I mean, like just from what I see in Poland and Ireland and England, it's like they, especially somebody's trying to set up a business around, it's like the government is taking everything from them no matter what. And the taxes, even sometimes they take it before you. So you can't even feed your children or put a roof over your head. And then I don't know, is it the same in the States? But I know that in Ireland and Poland, it's like when you're self-employed, you don't get social welfare then, whereas the people that are employees do. So then it's like they're totally trying to stop people being an entrepreneur.
That's not true in America, I don't think. I think you can still get welfare if you make under a certain amount if you're self-employed. In America, the system is more designed to attack the salaried worker. Like capital gains tax is like 15%, and then income tax is like 30%. So if you're making large investments, you're going to get taxed half the amount that if you're taking home a salary. And you can structure your income in certain ways where, like, if my business is making a bunch of money, I just wouldn't even pay myself a salary, or I'd pay myself something very small enough to cover like my mortgage, and then you could start your own charity and then donate your own money to your own charity, and then that's like a 50% tax write-off there. So there's all these ways to structure it to save yourself on taxes. And this is another thing that I learned about at a young age, is how the government is set up to make you fail. It's funny because people try to say things like usually like entrepreneurship, like motivational quotes will say things like, you shouldn't be thinking that anyone's out to get you, or you're not a victim. And it's like, well, like the government literally is out to get you, and you are a victim of their oppression. That's a fact. But it does apply to everyone equally. It doesn't favor anyone. And people be like, well, it favors rich people. And like, no, rich people are people. People are all the same. And as soon as those rich people lose their money, they're fucked too. So this illusion of wealth is temporary, and any rich person will probably tell you that unless they're not self-made, that they worry about, this might all end next week. So everything's temporary, and I think the goal is just to make it last as long as possible, and that just takes constant work and upkeep. And if you don't want to put in the constant work and upkeep to maintain a good lifestyle, there's always heroin and fentanyl.
And I see that with trusts, if you can put your stuff in a trust, whether it's the company or your assets, then you stop them actually putting their hand in your pocket, taking it out.
Yeah, I don't see how there's a way to do that without going offshore, though, which is a whole thing.
No, there's I had somebody on the show that's actually doing trust property related, so you're not paying the capital gains in it, whatever way she set up. But it was saucy enough. It was like 18 grand. So it's okay if you've got big money, but if you've just got one house or small house and the gains aren't massive, it doesn't justify it. But I mean, if if you're in the millions, that's small money for what she was doing. And just fine, because I know that you've done a lot of traveling, so you've been around. No, I don't know. I listened to some other podcast. I heard that you were talking about being in 20 countries by a very young age, or 26 countries or something like that. So just curious, like where you went and what you've seen that kind of opened up your eyes.
Well, my eyes to what's happening in this country were already open. At a very young age, like probably like 11 or 12, I was like, oh, this entire country is set up to turn us all into factory workers and low level workers, and just we're being lied to intentionally so we don't realize our true potential. So we don't have the confidence to go venture out into the world and create our own image and follow our vision and listen to our intuition, and we're told to listen to these greater powers than us, which are really just other humans that are all fat and ugly and boring. I'm talking about politicians. It's interesting to me that the Hollywood people are really the ones doing the marketing for the government, essentially, and they're all good looking. But like, why aren't the people in Washington D.C. good looking? Like, if they're so rich and powerful, I feel like they would want that too. I've asked my friends about this before, and they're like, "Oh, well, they don't care about that because they have a bunch of money." And I'm like, "Yeah, but so does Hollywood." I don't know. I'll get to the bottom of this. I'll write a joke about it or something. But if we all realize our true potential, like me personally, my whole life exists like off the grid of normal society. Like I don't have to go to a job. I don't have to I don't have to do anything or be anywhere. All I do all the time is whatever the hell I want to do. And that's because at a young age, I realized that nobody knows anything better than me. I have a lot of people think I have uh, a grand sense of confidence. And that's not the way I see it. I just see it as, I just think everyone else is not that great. Like, I don't think I have anything special that other people don't have, except for the realization that nobody's special. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just from listening to other things, because I know that you live life the way you want to, and I'm the same. I mean, I just kind of, I do everything that I love. I don't do things that I hate, but I see that the majority of people, they chug through life working for a corporation, miserable as hell, paying for a car that they're not sitting in paying for a house that they're not even really living in. They just come home to sleep and they just crash on the chair and they're not really living. And they do that for 40 years. And I see that all around the world. I see that some because I have friends everywhere, and the majority of countries are organized like that, and people don't get it. They don't just kind of step out of this and go, "What's life about?"
Yeah. Yeah. Some people are just happy uh in the system. Some people are just happy being cogs in someone else's machine. And regardless of if you're an entrepreneur or an employee, you're a cog in the machine either way. Like me as a self-employed business owner, I'm still paying my taxes to the government. I'm still using the same websites and email services that corporations are using. And I don't think there's a shame in working for someone else just entirely. I think there's a shame in not questioning it.
Or not enjoying it. I mean, if you love what you do, it's great. I mean, not
Yeah, yeah.
everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur, but there's so many people they despise what they do. So Sunday night they're sick in the stomach because they know they have the whole week to go ahead, and that is sad. Seeing a very high percentage of people that detest what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have a job somewhere you like and you're doing the 9 to 5 thing, then you're you're part of an organization bigger than yourself, and you're helping them work towards a common goal. And that's respectable. But if you're just working somewhere because you have no other option, or you just need rent money, then I mean, that's unfortunate. But then again, we're all doing everything for rent money.
Exactly.
It's all about money. Everything. And I've gotten in a few arguments with people, and they're like, "No, it's not all about money." This guy the other day was saying it's not about money. I knew this guy that was like super talented, and he chose to live in his 1 bedroom studio apartment in New York City with his kids so he could spend more time with his kids. And I was like, "How much was the studio apartment?" It was like a couple grand a month. And I was like, "Yeah, that's money. You need money." And then people try to differentiate this like, "Well, you don't need like millions and millions of dollars. You just need enough money to survive." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I'm saying." You need people misconstrue when I say the importance of money means you need like a private jet. Like, I don't have a private jet. Why would I be lecturing that? I just you need enough money to pay your mortgage or rent and keep food in your fridge. And that's how I define success. I have food in my fridge, so I'm happy.
And I mean,
The private jet sounds cool, but if I go my entire life without ever stepping foot on one, hey man, I'm pretty sure most of the guys on private jets haven't experienced nearly the life I have.
with the student debt, because like I was seeing that some people, even when they get their retirement, that if it's not paid off, it comes out of that. Like it seems to be in America. I mean, it might be in some other countries, like, but that isn't the norm in Europe. And it must be a terrible thing to come out of education with 100 grand. And I've even heard of some people 250,000 debt hanging over your head. And if you get bankrupt, you can't write it off, which normally in any situation you just say, oh, shit happens, let's move on. But with the student debt, you can't do that.
Yeah, I was lucky enough. I got a grant when I was in college for $4,500, and that was kind of the seed money that got me to where I am today. So I can't really hate too much on the college financial system because it worked out really well for me.
Excellent, excellent. So you might let people know. I know you mentioned the website, but you might get and whatever handles as well where people can get in contact with you.
Oh yeah, my Instagram is at Cricket Lord MMA because I sell crickets and I do MMA. And then the website to buy the cricket protein bars is goldencricket.com.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. I'll make sure I'll put the links both in the audio and the video. And I wish you super success. And hopefully you'll get it internationally, because I know that there's probably a lot more people interested in this.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And it tastes good. It really does.
Yeah, okay.
We give out free samples all day, every day when we're working, and we get 99% positive feedback. The 1% that don't like it either don't like one of the ingredients, so they wouldn't like it without crickets either, or they already are opposed to the idea of it, and they're like, "Oh, I'll just try it," just because I don't know, their husband's like making them try it. Like, come on, you got to do it, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not gonna like it," and they decide they're not gonna like it first, and that's very, very few people. So if you're willing to purchase a box or a few bars or whatever, that's enough to ensure that you're not averse enough to try it and you will like it. I guarantee.
Okay, cool. So I'll make sure I put the links both in the audio and the video, and I wish you super success with your business.
All right. Thank you so much.
No problem. So that's all for the Awakening Podcast. You'll find all our episodes on awakeningpodcast.org. As mentioned, we're on BitChute and Rumble, and you'll find my further podcasts along with the coaching bio.link/podcaster. Until next week, take care.